While some important initiatives of Thoroughbred Breeders Australia have been put on the back burner during COVID, such as the annual get-together with Prime Ministers and other federal politicians at Parliament House in Canberra, plenty of work has been going on behind the scenes. I caught up with TBA CEO Tom Reilly at the recent Inglis Easter yearling sale to hear the latest.
Gives the big salute. She bolts in wings. And Fireburn charges home and gives Gary Portelli second golden sliver.
Tom, it's a new year. Thoroughbred Breeders Australia and AusSource, there's plenty of work going on behind the scenes. I guess one of the most visible things in recent years has been the fast-track training program for young people coming into the breeding industry. What are the plans for 2022?
Yeah, well, Caroline, look, it's great to be here at the Easter sale because walking around and seeing some of the graduates from the previous program. So the fast tracks, we're actually just at the point now of offering places in the 5th intake, and we're going to take up to 20 young trainees, and we've got a really strong bunch of applicants this year from right around the country. And I imagine we'll have placements on farms in at least 4 different states across Australia. So it's exciting, and that will kick off. So the trainees will start towards the end of May.
So anyone that's interested, I mean, these young people, there are a lot of people that want to get in and they're like, oh, I haven't really done that much horse handling, or I don't come from a horsey background. I mean, this is what the course is for. I mean, also people that do have some experience, but you can come in and really get into this sort of thing and learn so much.
So we've had 4 intakes now, and every year we've taken someone with almost no hands-on experience, but they've said, look, I'm really interested in the industry. I follow racing, I follow pedigrees, I want to get involved. And actually one of those from the first intake is now on a Godolphin flying start. So, we've had some great young people come through that way. We also have a lot of people who, may have done pony club or, other sort of horse activities, non-racing involved, but say, look, I really want a job with horses. They've seen the program, they've seen that it's a great opportunity to learn as well as to get a job on a respected farm, and they come through that way.
And another great initiative, again, about the people in the industry is the stud staff support line. And it's brilliant seeing all the little flyers up all around the place. And it's a really important thing. I mean, we've lost some people from the industry, sadly, in recent times. Just explain to people, if someone's, having a bit of a bad time or don't feel they have anyone to talk to, that's what it's all about.
I think every employer knows, we all know from our own experience that, mental health is a real challenge across society, and our industry is no different. And one of the issues you have, especially in regional areas, is access to a psychologist. And if you go through your GP, you might be waiting 4 months or so to access a visit with a psychologist. Exactly. So we set the stud staff support line up last year, announced it last year. Anyone who's involved in the breeding industry can access up to 4 sessions with a trained psychologist, and literally you phone up the line and you can get scheduled an appointment within days. So it's a great asset for the industry, and I'd really encourage both employers to let their staff know about it and staff to share it amongst their colleagues, because it's there, and we really want people to take it up and use it, and use it early rather than wait till people are really suffering. If they feel like they need to talk to someone, it's great to get on the front foot and they can ring the line and speak to someone straight away.
And utterly confidential. I mean, this is the thing, I know, particularly blokes, I guess, and they're working, they're outdoorsy blokes and don't really want to talk about feelings and things, but it can do so much good, can't it? Just to have someone to bounce them, even a broken relationship or something going wrong. It's so important.
And that's it. So it's not just for work-related. We don't want people to come forward just with work-related issues. Just anything that's impacting your mental well-being. Get on the front foot, make the call, and really do it early. Get in touch and talk things through. I think is a really positive thing, and that's where everyone sees the most benefit, really, I think.
The other really important thing too is TORG, the Thoroughbred Aftercare Welfare Working Group. So much work has been done with Dennis Napthine and everybody that was involved, but where are we now in looking at what is actually achievable from some of the submissions that you received?
The TORG released its report in late November last year, 46 recommendations. some of those recommendations aimed at governments, some of those aimed at industry, really looking at not just the end of horses' careers and transitioning out, but a really broad look on how we improve thoroughbred welfare across Australia. But the reaction to the report was really positive. Everyone who took the time to read it thought it was a great report, thought really good recommendations, but now comes the hard work of getting those in place. Now, as you say, there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes. I actually was in Canberra last week, and the federal government looking at those recommendations that are really aimed at governments to do. We have got government buy-in to really drive those recommendations. So that's things like bringing in enforceable minimum welfare standards for all horses. So this is a really sort of fundamental piece in saying, how do we support the welfare of all horses across Australia? So government's now saying, you know what, we see the value of this, we've read the report, we're going to drive this. Another one is around standards, enforceable standards around abattoirs and knackeries. Obviously...
And that's a government issue, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know what, there's something the industry can't do. We can't go and regulate those businesses. So we need government. They're the right body to go in and regulate those properly. The tour came about as a result of the 7:30 report and the shocking footage we saw from an abattoir in Queensland and also from some knackeries. There are no standards, horse-specific standards, for those businesses at the moment. So that's a huge hole that needs to be addressed. And so it's great to hear government saying that now that's going to be a priority.
Whatever happens in the thoroughbred space helps all horses. I mean, I know whether it be the Horse Council or different equestrian bodies are really wanting to kind of almost hitch a ride on whatever the thoroughbred industry can achieve.
Absolutely, and I think so much in the report wasn't just about thoroughbreds, but it was about saying, look, how can we better care for horses across Australia? And I think there'll be buy-in from all of those groups when they see that now we've got a bit of momentum with governments. They've read the report. They want to make action. And
there's also a lot of work being done too. I mean, agri-futures, I guess some of these government bodies never really fully understood the thoroughbred breeding industry as an agricultural endeavour, which it 100% is, as we all know. So there's a lot of work happening in the space of, whether it be research and development.
That's right. So all breeders make a contribution towards agri-futures, which is a thoroughbred research and development levy. So all of that money, if you've got a broodmare, each year you'll pay $10. It goes into this fund. Stallion owners pay $10 per covering too. And what that does is it generates almost $500,000. That then gets matched by federal funds. So we know that there's almost $1 million every year going to thoroughbred research. So there's a panel that sit there and make priorities around where that money is spent. And really they're focused on improving outcomes within the breeding industry particularly. So for example, a new project that's going on this year that TBA are helping to manage is around late-term fetal loss. So any mare that loses her pregnancy late in that pregnancy, there's a funding mechanism there to pay for those samples from those fetuses to be taken and then analysed and really allow the industry to have a much better understanding of these problems.
And over the years, there's been the fabulous meet and greet with all the federal politicians down at Parliament House in Canberra that I've really enjoyed being involved with. And you see everyone there, from Prime Ministers, opposition leaders, all the agricultural ministers, the ministers with portfolios in regional areas. And it all really helps that lobbying. And you've had another recent win on that too.
Well, that's right. It's so important that TBA is there speaking to politicians, because so many of the issues that we have as an industry have a government solution to them, or an element of government intervention. So yes, really pleased to announce that the Regional Investment Corporation, which is essentially a government bank that provides concessional loans to primary producers, all of its loans will now be open to thoroughbred breeders. So when the RIC, the Regional Investment Corporation, was established, they had a really tight definition of who could apply for a loan, and it was food or fibre. We went to the government over a year ago and said, you really need to review this. They eventually announced a review. Sometimes the wheels of bureaucracy don't always move as quickly. They announced a review. We went through a process. TBA made a really strong application and really pushed all sides of Parliament to say, look, we need to have access to this. David Littleproud, the Federal Agriculture Minister, his office phoned me just the other day to say that we will now have access to those loans, and which is a really big win. It's a win for, especially I think, for new people in the industry, or young people, or people really wanting to expand, maybe to buy more land or to make a capital purchase, to maybe improve their broodmare band. They'll be able to borrow money from the government at a reduced interest rate.
So there is, so much work still to be done. I mean, and it is all very much, obviously, from the TBA point of view, on behalf of Australian thoroughbred breeders. Because, I mean, you look around, as you said, here at the Easter sales, this doesn't all just happen because we have an increase in prize money, or this has been going on for a long time. The level of professionalism in the industry, but we can always do more for the members of Thoroughbred Breeders Australia.
Absolutely. I mean, our job at TBA is to make sure this industry is sustainable. To make sure the challenges that we meet all the time, whether it's a staffing issue, whether it's a welfare issue, whether it's mental health within the workforce, that we're there, we're working, and we've got an amazing industry, but it's essentially a collective of lots of small businesses. So there's an issue around scale. So we're there to say, look, how can we step in to those spaces and really drive the agenda on behalf of everyone?